Hello everybody! Are you interested in learning how to create a secure REST API in PHP a lot faster and easily? If that's the case and you're really interested, make sure you watch this whole video because I'm going to break down step by step how to do that extremely easily, and it's going to be extremely secure. Alright, now let's get this party started with the REST API. Let's find out how does it work. If you are new to this REST API thing, then let me tell you how it works. So basically, REST API is the way that it works is at least a routing in the sense of the URL. So let's say we are in this website called Code with Mark, and then we click on this particular post. And then once we click on it, we get this particular URL right over here in the browser. However, if we click on this link right here, and then we make an AJAX request to the server, and then that server sends the information down, and then during that process of sending the information through AJAX, and server gets the information and then validates it and sends it back, and that's what is known as REST API. Just to give you a better visual, so let me pull up my little 3D paint, and let's say we have this browser right here. Okay, paint, come over here. So we have our browser. I don't know why my paint is not working. Let's pick paint right here. So let's say we have this browser, our website, in which we have a container, and then we have a button, and you guys can probably tell I'm not really good at drawing, but that's besides the point. So let's say we click on this button right here. And then this button, when someone clicks on it, it goes to our server right over here. And then we send some information. For example, let's call it E for email. And then it gets validated whether or not it's going to see if it's in the database or not. So over here, we'll be using PHP. And then in PHP, this email gets validated over here. If everything is good, then we're gonna send that information back to the browser right over here. And then over here, we can display whatever we want to do. So in short, that's how REST API works. So let's go look at our live example that we are going to be working on. So let's go over here. So right about now, if I right click in here, if you haven't noticed yet, and even in my previous video that I showed, but if you are new to the web browser, first of all, not a web browser, but in the web development, first of all, welcome. We have been waiting for you. Where have you been? And secondly, if you are going to be picking a browser, make sure you pick the latest and greatest browsers that are out there. Do not use crappy Internet Explorer because it is horrible, and try to use either our Chrome, or if not Chrome, then our what's called Firefox. So let's say, assuming you are using Chrome, you can right click over here, click on inspect, and then on the network tab, and for some reason if your network tab is not showing is like this, make sure you just click right over here and then drag it over, and then you'll be able to see your network tab. So let's say we click on this, our page loads up. As soon as our page loads up, all of these files are going to get loaded up. It's a picture file, then you got your JS file, CSS, and this is the whole API full file itself. So if you want to clear this up completely, so what you do is click on this red button once, and then click it again, and it clears it out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click over here where it says get emails, and then when I click on this button, which we will look at it, I just want to give you the visual of how it works. When you click on this, behind scenes, it does the same thing over here. So let me just clear this out. Let's say if I want to clear this crap out, how do I do that? Select, then I'll select all of this, delete it, Okay, you go away too. Then I go back here, and then let's just pick another one. This one right. So when we click on this button right over here, which is on in our browser. So this is our browser. Button, 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 and this gets clicked, and this is gonna go to our server in PHP side and validate whatever information that gets in here. If it's good, it's going to send it over here to a page in which we can display it. And that's exactly what happens here. And this is just a demonstration for you to understand visually how does the REST API work. So hopefully right about now you are like, okay, Mark, I get it. Let's move on. Show me other stuff and I want to learn. Okay, so let's move on. So we click this button, we get this data, and let's look over here. If I click on it, another window will come up which will give you a few different tabs, which will be the header, preview, response, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the URL, which is your REST API URL. And then if we go right over here, just copy this. And then we go to our browser and paste it. And then when we get this information, which is a AJAX request in JSON format right over here. And the parameter that we are passing, which is this right over here, variable called email, and whatever email associated that we want to validate to make sure it's in the database. So if we have a good email, it's going to come up to be success. Message will be records found, and then the email that is associated with it. So right now, if you're like, oh my God, this is so crappy, give me a nice version, Mark. So let's go over here in the preview section. And then this is exactly what it is in a nice, pretty version of JSON. So this is one row. And then this is this. It has an email, first name, record ID, found. So let's say hypothetically speaking, we type in some crappy email, let's say like this. And then we hit enter. It's going to come back to say, hey, there's an error found. This is the stuff that we want to send to the browser or the person who's calling our API to actually get the information. So that's that. So let's build, rather not build, but rather show you how do you build this REST API that is not only good, but also powerful, and but most importantly, it is secure REST API. So let's see how we can do that. So let's just minimize all this, open up here, and demo REST API. So let's go over here. So let's look up the index part first, index PHP. And I want to close all the other ones up. This is basically just a main file that you are going to look at when soon as this particular page loads up. So let's go clear this up. So when we go here, this is the first thing that loads up, and this is going to be over here. So if I were you, up until all of this, I would just copy and paste and not even worry about it. Basically what that means is the very first code, just to give you an idea. If you're using this on your server, if it uses a HTTP request, this particular SSL thing is automatically going to convert it, so you don't have to worry about anything. And then this particular one is going to give you the URL of whatever URL that is. So for example, I'm using localhost XM, and if you guys don't know what in the world is the XM, I'm going to leave a link in the description for you, so that way you can watch that video and have an understanding on how does an XAMPP server, which is also known as the local server, works, and how you can install it in your computer. So having said that, so this is exactly what's happening. And in this particular line, what I'm doing is what it is doing, the PHP side is doing, is just going to allow all of your URL to have a API REST calls and not block anything. But if you don't put that in here by default, some companies will not allow you to have an API call from another server, another machine, and so on and so forth. So in other words, let's say I have my own website, web server called markkumar .com or codewithmark.com. And over there, if you try to call my REST API from your local machine or your server, and if you don't have this particular line, my server is going to deny it and will not allow you to access it. So it's very crucial that you include this line in your PHP code. And then followed by, I'm just including these two as like defining it. And basically what that means is this particular variable is equal to this, defining it. And then this is just the AJAX request. I'm setting a define a variable, which is URL and then /API. So what that means is, let's go right over here. So we'll go here, we go here. So basically what I'm saying is all of this up until the API word, right over here, all of this URL getting defined over here. As simple as that, very simple, right? And then followed by our path in which I'm converting the forward and backward slash into a nicely organized way. So don't worry about any of that crap. So where you really need to worry about is, or pay attention, is right over here. So I'm using two different libraries. One of this called Alto Router, and which is a great library. And the beautiful thing I love about this particular library, let me bring it up for you so you can follow along. And this is the one right over here, and I'll leave it, the link in the description for you so you can go and download it. And I love this library because you just have to, let me put it over here side by side. So to use this library, unlike the other library like a Slim or all the other ones where you have to load a package and then you have to download a whole bunch of files and you have to upload it to your server or your local machine, and then you have to install another software called package, and then you'll be able to install it. Instead of doing all that crap, you just download this file and include it like this, and that's it. I mean, really, that's it. That's what you gotta do. Nothing special, just it. And you can learn more about it going to altorouter.com. And once again, I will leave a link in the description for you so that way you can easily follow this. And then you can obviously go through the other process of like installing it. How do you install it? Yada, yada, yada. And then go to the next. How do you do it? So you do this, which is your htaccess file. And then how do you call it? How do you set up a router, and so on and so forth. But I will be walking you through all of that information so you don't have to worry about it, right? So let's move on. So let's go over here. And then the next file, which is the database file, that is the file that I created. It is very powerful library. It is very simple, just like your Alto Router. You could just include it with just one line of code. You don't need to install any packages or any of that npm crap. Just one line of code, save it somewhere in your directory, in your folder, and you're good to go. And then if you want to use your routing library, which is Alto Router, I don't know, it's a weird name, but it is what it is. All you have to do is copy this, literally just copy this. I promise you, if you just copy this, it will work for all your project. And then over here is where we are using our routing file for PHP, and I will exactly show you how to do that. So this is this, and then this part of the code, you just paste it, copy it, paste it, that's it. So in short, cut, copy, paste all of this crap and it will work for you. And then one thing I will tell you this, which is a key component. If you are using PHP 8, you will have to include this particular variable function. Otherwise, it will not work for you in your PHP 8. And if we go back here, and the way that they actually tell you to install it, which is sometimes it doesn't work if you are using PHP 8. So let's go over here. So let's go processing routes. In here, what they tell you is if it cannot find a route right over here, this just gives you this. And as you can tell, that where it says match parameters, there is no array. In PHP 8, you have to have this included. So what this does is if it finds a route being, for example, let's go over here. So this right over here, that's a route. If I go to this page, this is a route. If I go to this page, this is a route. However, if I, let's say, same thing in here. So let's say if I type in something, blah, 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 and hit enter, go to this page, it's going to say 404. I cannot find this page. So that's your 404 page. And if you want, you can include it right over here. And that is that. And just for giggles, if I want to do this, I could say, and if I refresh it now, it's going to give me the exact same URL. Then it says 404 page. And voila. Here we go. Up until here, actually. Right over here. So that's it. But if you want to include your custom 404 page, like for example, if I click on this, and then it's like, my God, I can't find your page. But if you want this other thing, you click enter your name and email and get it. So that's that. So now that we got this out of the way, let's move on to the bigger and better things, which is your routing system. So I have two folders. One of them is the routes, and another one is a view. The view is your HTML. So in other words, what that means is whatever you are going to see in this page, which is pretty basic page, which is 3-button, home, get emails, contact, nothing special. But if you want to look at it, I'll show you, of course. Let's go to view first. And in here, I have an image, which is this. And then this is your index, which is the main home page right over here. So I'm going to close this out. So in here, basically, it's just like a regular, your Bootstrap libraries. Then I'm including this menu part of it right over here. And you're like, oh my God, explain to me what each of these code means. And those of you who already have watched my videos before, you know I don't like to explain that because that's just boring crap. And I really don't enjoy it because I want to teach you guys the nuts and meats and potatoes of it, because writing a code, that's like a piece of cake. If you're like, no man, I want to learn how to write a code, I would suggest you go to library, which would be right over here, this URL, which is W3, I think. Yeah, W3, this website. And I don't know what, for some reason my internet is running a little slow. Don't know why. Let's go here. All right, maybe it's just that power. You go over here, make this a bookmark for you, because you are going to learn a lot from here. Meaning, if you're just a beginner, you don't know anything about web development, make this your Bible. Learn it, memorize it, and know it like a back of your hand, because this will teach you all the basic stuff and everything else, and has like a whole bunch of stuff. So for example, you have a tutorial for CSS, HTML, Bootstrap, Icon, and then we can move on to jQuery, JSON, Python, and PHP, and so on and so forth. So bookmark the hell out of this thing. And the website is called w3schools.com. Bookmark the hell out of this thing and treat this like your Bible, right? So that's that. Let's move on. So this is just like your navigation button. And then this is the container being, once again, right over here in that what you call the black box, outline black box right over here. Whatever is happening is going to happen here. And then we have our divs, in which the home page and other things. And this is your JavaScript. So basically, let's work on this one. So remember the URL that I actually assigned it in PHP? Do you remember? If you don't, let's go back and look up our index PHP, which is this one, this right here. I am just declaring it right here as an Ajax URL right over here. And then anytime I click on this buttons, whether it be this, this, or this, this event gets fired. And then I'm just changing the screen name based on this screen name, and this screen name is right over here. So anytime someone clicks on the home button, it has a screen name of home, email with email, contact with contact. So that is what's happening here. So let's say, for example, if I click on email, which would be right over here, get emails. And then this particular what else statement will kick in. And from here, what I'm saying is go to the Ajax URL and then / emails. And then parameter that I want to pass is email. And the email that I want to pass is mark@gmail.com. And I'm just using a simple JSON get request. Nothing fancy. I don't need to worry about the Ajax and everything else. But if those of you who are like, hey man, I want to learn this crap because I heard jQuery is the bomb. And guess what? You would be right. It is the bomb. It's been around for more than 10 years. I'm like, oh my God, if that doesn't tell you how great jQuery is, then I don't know what the hell will. So, but if you're interested in learning about jQuery, make sure you check out my courses by going to, let's go here, right over here, and then click on the jQuery course. And I promise you, by the time you're done with it, you'll be like, yes, I can create stuff. All right, so let's move on. So I'm just using a get JSON. And then this is the URL, and then I'm sending it to the route. And let's look at the route, and that's where the meat and the potato is going to happen for you when you are creating your API calls or API routes or whatever you want to call it. And then just want to give you an idea, like remember when we looked at these two files, which is one is the route, another one is the database file, routes file. And those are happening right over here in this library. So you can see I'm going to the routes from this folder, main folder, routes, libraries, and then these two files. And then I'm going to open up this file, which is the routes file. So I can just close this out. Yeah, okay. And another thing what I want to show you was just which is the HT access file. It's very simple. All you do is include this file and copy this if you want to, or if you could just download the whole thing by clicking on the link below. I'll leave the link for you so you can download the project file. And if you're using this in an XAMPP folder under subfolder being your htdoc is the main folder, and then I have a demo, then I have a REST folder, REST API, and this is like a subfolder. If you are using under a subfolder, make sure you put a # next to it. Otherwise, this will not work if you're using a local host. And the rest of these 2-3 lines, cut, copy, paste, and off you go, and the one line on top. So basically, create a subfolder in your htdoc folder, and then put it in there. Life is good. All right, let's move on. So that's that. And then I have another file called app-config.php. All right, so in here, it's just like your database in which you will have to connect to your database, and I'll show you what that particular database looks like. So this is my XAMPP panel looks like for those of you who may not know what the hell in the world that is. And once again, if you don't know, I will leave a link in the description for you to watch the video that will help you better understand what all this crap means. So let's go here and let's go to my MK007 database. And then within this database, I have this file called T1. But before I do that, if I want to connect to this database, this particular file is going to make it happen. And in here, if you never connected to a MySQL database before, the class that I am using, which I mentioned it in the database file, and I'll show you again, which is in routes right over here, this one, it asks for a few parameters, and these are the parameters, which is your database name. In this case, it will be localhost, and actually that will be your host, local host, and then your database name will be MK007. And then I just left the database user to be root and no password whatsoever, because I don't care, because I'm using it locally. It doesn't matter because nobody else is going to access this crap. All right, so let's move on. So I'm including that particular file from the main folder, which is right over here. So this is the absolute folder path to this folder. And then within this folder, I'm looking for this file. And that gets included in here. And then within this file, all of these constant variables, I am just putting it into array. And then my database file calls for this particular simple DB class function and asks for this array, which is all of this, which is the host, user, password, and database name, and then it creates a initiation function for connecting to the database, which I'm calling a db underscore func, and that's it. We're good to go. And now we can connect to the database, and life is good. So I'm gonna close out the other file. So when our full file, this folder, I'm gonna close out other stuff because I really don't need it right now. So when this page loads up, the very first route that is going to load up, which is this. And in order for you to use auto router, you call your route this way. It starts with the word route dash greater than sign map and then this. And then whatever you want to include here, you can include it and follow, then you close it like this. So basically this is your GET request. So what that means is if somebody is, let's say for example, if I'm loading this page up on the browser, that is a GET request. And you can put it right over here as a GET. And if you want to change it to something else, whether it's a GET request, post request, delete request, put request, and patch, and I think those are about it, most of them that are being used. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend you, when you're using this in a PHP framework, only use get and post. I have found those are the ones that are easy to use and easy to manipulate in terms of data. So that's what I would recommend. So this particular route gets the request. And then this one is the one that will validate. Remember when I showed you right over here, which is the email route. It asks for the email and check to see. And then this is right over here. It's going to get the email right there, right? And then the parameter that it's asking for, which is a query string, right over here. And then this particular function is part of the database class that I wrote, which is a simple DB class. If you call this function and pass in whatever parameters you want to put in it, what this is going to do is it's going to, get ready for this, sanitize your data. Meaning, if somebody, for example, let's go here, let's open up inspect, and I want to get the URL just to show you. Let's suppose if somebody wants to hijack your website, they could type in this blah 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 and then get creative with that particular string and be able to access your database, your PHP file, and all that critical information you have in here. And obviously we don't want that. So what we need to do is we need to sanitize the data before we can actually use it. So this particular function will sanitize it before we can use it. Once it sanitizes it, it is going to assign it to a variable, and then we can use that particular variable to look up in our database, which is what this does is there's a table called T1. So let's look at T1, which is right over here. It has 4 records. It has first name. Whoa, excuse me, guys. I had a little cold there. I sneezed a little bit. All right, so it has first name, email, and there are 4 rows. And if I want to look at, let's see, this one, just for giggles, I'll use this email. And I'll just type it over here. Oh no, it didn't take it. Shoot, no. Let's go here. Type it over here. Okay, maybe it's not taking it. Why not? Code at, let's try this. Okay. So it found the record, gave me the whole row, which will be this row. this one right here, and life is good. And that is what exactly is happening right over here. And then the next thing is like, hey, if you found a row, which means that email exists, then you show a success message with the actual row. If you cannot find that row, show an error message, which is like that right here. So let's show that error message. 1, 2, blah, 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 and then hit enter, reload the page, and then boom, can't find anything. Oh my God, that is horrible. So, well, it's not really horrible. That means the system is working. So that's how you use your API calls with the query string, which is like this question mark, and then parameter, whatever data that you want to pull from. But let's not stop there. Let's go one step further, which is using it as like if you have a version, like for example, you may or may not have used it. You have an API which has a version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, so on and so forth. So let's look at the different versions of it. So let's go over here, copy this, paste it here. And now we want to go version 1. And if I hit enter, it's gonna give me nothing. Reason why? Because this particular route, what that says is version 1 /API / anything up until here is going to be assigned as a variable. And right about now, what I'm saying is like, hey, by the way, all of this is considered email. That is what this is equal to. So remember before where we send the query string, now we are saying that anything that is after this API, the word API. So let me just make that a little bigger for you to see. So I'll just open up my notepad and let's just make that a little bigger. Zoom, no, change the font, yes. Let's go over here, 20. Yes, sir, there we go. So basically what that says is anything after this, / anything after this, it will be considered a parameter. So if I type in email, blah, 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 that's the one parameter. And that whole thing will be assigned to this ID. And then ID, I'm going to sanitize it, assign to email, and the same thing will happen, right? So let's make sure that it actually does work. What I am going to do is I'm going to remove this email query string part of it. And then I'm going to remove all of this. So make sure this is the correct version of it. And then if I hit enter now I get the same message if I were to use it over here. So let's go here. So you could accomplish the same thing with a different way. And some people like to use it this way, and some people like to use it this way. Choice is yours, whatever you want to do it. So for example, if you want to take it one step further, let's say you have a route, and then the same route, and over here, I can put T1 for now. So this is my URL. And if I go here, over here, then I can call it T1. I get the same exact thing as this one. So basically anything over here in between this thing, whatever that particular data is, I'm going to use that as a variable. Then I'm going to look up in my database or whatever process that I want to use. I'll use that. And then that's it. So this becomes my whole URL. All right. So that's the end of this particular video. If you really found it helpful, make sure you check out the courses that I have on my website, which is codewithmark.com. And I also have some free courses right over here. As you can see, you click on this one, the free online courses you could take, and that will help you take your development journey, development, career development, whatever you want to call it, to the next level a lot further. And if you're interested in taking a JavaScript course, and make sure you check out the courses. But if you want to get in touch with me, if you got any questions, man, I got questions all the time. That's how I'm able to create this amazing video for you. All thanks to you guys, because you send me this wonderful, amazing video ideas, and that's why I'm able to create this for you. So just go to my website and then click on the contact button, send me an email, and I will create your video idea in my next video, maybe, depending on what time allows. But I will definitely consider including all the emails that I get from you guys as a part of the video. So, all right, guys, as you already know what I'm gonna say, guess what I'm gonna say? Happy coding, guys.